Business,
We need to probably...
I'll make a motion. Okay, motion by Councillor Peavoy to reconvene. All in favor? Okay, passed. Mutual aid agreements, let's start with the utility mutual aid agreement. Jeff, you want to explain what this is all about?
You bet. So, these two mutual aid agreements are not connected in any way. So don't think one is connected to the other. They're mutually exclusive. This one has come to us through a consortium of Alberta utility companies. For us, specifically focusing on the electrical is really where the emphasis is for us. And it's simply a way to formalize a mutual aid between utility companies that if one had a wreck that was beyond their ability to manage, they could call on others, and the parameters around costs and the parameters around expectations would be set.
Can I ask you a question, Jeff?
The chair's okay with it?
Oh, I'm so sorry, yeah.
Go ahead, Mary.
He normally is, but I thought so.
I don't seem to get your eyeball there.
That's all right.
Okay. We do that right now when there was issues in the past and somebody calls us, or electricians have help. Did we have an agreement before, or is it the first time we would have an agreement?
So and maybe I'm missing something, so tell me if I am. We've done things before, like Fort McLeod was going to have an outage and wanted our help. We've gone and done that. We've gone, we've had Lethbridge come here before to help us out. Neither of those were emergency events. That was one subtle difference. They were planned, they were known well ahead of time.
Contracted.
Hey, 3 weeks on June 1st, could you send us a quote to come help you? We send them a quote, they accept the quote, we go do the work. So this is a little more, when you have these events, they're phoning right now, can you send resources?
It's more formal.
And so we have some parameters around those costs.
So
yes and no to your question.
So didn't we send guys up to High River?
We did on the water.
On the water,
wastewater, yes.
Are we bound by this agreement, Jeff?
No, in both agreements, we have the option to decline.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead, Mary.
okay, I would like to ask you another question. So, who are we contracting with when we sign this agreement?
So, I don't know if the word contracting is the right one in here, because we're essentially, there'll be a group of utilities. You're going to see Fortis's, City of Lethbridge, City of Calgary, Cardston, Ponoka, anyone that has resources, men and machine resources in the industry, that are all going to jointly sign in support. Hypothetically, some may not. I haven't heard from all the other communities. So, in my mind, this is heavily focused on electrical utilities.
But at the end, when you have the signature,
Yeah.
you have company name. So, who is this company?
It could be NMAX, EPCOR, TransAlta, Fortis,
Okay.
AltaLink.
All right. So,
Yeah.
that would be a standby kind of document that can be filled at the time of the emergency.
Yeah, each
needed.
utility has to fill out a bit of a roster saying, here's who I've got, here's what machinery I've got, here's who you contact, so we would have that inventory
Okay, all
of
right.
each participating utility. I mentioned to Councillor Bengry when we went over this, I did send back a couple pieces of feedback. One was that it defines the event as the time you're called out to when the event is over. And I said, I'm a little concerned about that, because what if the event is way up north and my guys and equipment still got to get down south, and that takes another couple days in a hotel and food.
Right.
For me, the event ends when they get home.
Yep.
Yeah, because there's the traveling
There's always
costs and the
cost.
lodging, etc.
Yeah, so that might be something, it is identified as that later, but in the initial definitions, it doesn't say that, and so I
Okay.
just said maybe we could clarify.
All right.
Because for us, the other thing was it wants all the participants to attend an annual meeting, and I said if the attendance is mandatory, I'm probably not interested. Because I'm not going to send somebody up to Grand Prairie for a one-day meeting about, hey, are we all still kosher with this agreement? It's way too expensive.
Could they do a teleconferencing or something
I'm
of
sure
that
they
sort?
can, but they just have in here that there'll be an annual meeting.
So maybe
And I
that
just
needs
said
to
I'm
be
not
quick.
prepared to send people every year, who
Yeah.
knows where.
Maybe with a new media that we
Yeah.
have, teleconferencing would be a way to do it.
So those are my only two pieces of feedback. Otherwise, I support it. I think it works good. I told Councillor Bengry as well. It's probably, if we even want to narrow this down, if we went and signed an agreement with Lethbridge, Fort McLeod, and Fortis, that's probably anybody who would reasonably respond to a request of ours
Right.
anyway,
Yes.
Yeah.
just because they're here.
Okay, so exactly what is required of us if you want to see things tweaked, we could approve it in principle.
Yeah, that's all I was, if council's okay with this type of arrangement in principle,
Yeah.
then we'll see how they
We can
work through the
tweak it
final
and-
draft.
okay.
Now, Jeff, you can also explain that we do not have to respond.
No, it's a volunteer,
Yeah,
so if you have it.
if we've got more problems than what they have,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we need to take care of ours.
No, but we
That's right.
understand that. It's
Any other
quite
questions?
well.
Nope. And Mayor, go ahead.
Well, I would like to make a recommendation that we approve policy dash,
But it's not,
No, it's
it's not
not
policy,
policy.
just
Just
Just a
utility
utility.
mutual aid agreement.
okay, so you forget what is written there.
Oh,
The,
that's the investment.
The Alberta Utility Company.
yeah,
No,
so then,
no, it's called the
No.
utility mutual aid agreement.
it's called the utility mutual agreement
Yeah.
as in principle.
Are you good with that, Jeff?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, all in favor? Passed. Okay, let's do the blood tribe mutual aid agreement.
So roughly the same principles apply. There's a couple of things why I was pushing for a mutual aid agreement. You'll see that the agreement is very generic in its nature. It's not saying that we're specifically going to send this many people with this many pieces of machinery and vice versa. But what it does is it does a couple of things. It lays out the expectations in an emergency that if we also have the same emergency, we're not obligated. We have to put our resources to our people. The other thing is it indemnifies one another from liabilities, which I also like. I mean, hypothetically, you probably would be anyway, but this does formally, we agree to indemnify one another from liability if we go to help and something goes wrong. And lastly, what I like, especially with the municipalities around us, including the Blood Tribe, is the scenario I gave Councillor Bengry is, let's assume, because this is a reality, that there was maybe a fire, that there was no power to Moses Lake for 3 days. Let's say. It would only seem logical that those residents would come here to Cardston. We're right here. So we open the reception center, we put them in the civic center, we deploy our people to get everything in place. They can take over. The Blood Tribe uses the Red Cross, by the way. So the Red Cross can finally get here, take over. But we've got an agreement that we can bill back all those expenses.
Right.
You know, I think we would aid either way. It only seems like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But in this case, the Blood Tribe is also acknowledging that, yeah, if we do that, then we expect to pay the bill.
Okay,
And vice versa, you guys would also pay the bill if we helped you out. So I like it on a number of principles for that reason.
Di-
Need a motion for a recommendation?
I'll move.
Okay,
I'll recommend to council that we adopt emergency management mutual aid agreement with the Blood Tribe,
Yeah.
with the Blood Tribe, as in principle, for now, is that?
Yeah, sure.
We just need
We'll get it
for now.
tightened
okay,
up.
Jill, have you got that? Okay, motion on the floor, all in favor? Carried? Yes.
One additional question. I'm just curious on building relationships. How did this come about? Through your initiative, through the Blood Tribe, or?
What happened is, so when was it now? Time flies, huh?
2 months ago, you had an emergency.
Yeah, I went to a meeting in Lethbridge, actually, at the very beginning of the year. Might have been like it was very, very early on. I think Marion was just announced she was leaving, maybe. Anyway, so she sent me to this emergency management meeting. And while I was there, I got talking with Mark Murphy. And Alberta Emergency Management Agency has hired a First Nations liaison. So he's a First Nations individual who is charged with helping all the First Nations get cooperation with their urbans around them and other municipalities. And so we got talking about how we didn't have such an agreement. And the county, Murray was there saying the same thing. And the county has some other interesting scenarios there. They need a mutual aid agreement because they may need access across the reserve to get to certain parts of the county. So Mark and this, I forget the gentleman who is their First Nations liaison, they brokered a meeting at the county a couple of months ago. And so Oscar Cotton is the emergency coordinator for the Blood Tribe. He came, and myself and Murray and Tyler was there. And then the people from AEMA. And we kind of put together a bit of a base for it and agreed in principle. We had another meeting that was canceled, but then Oscar emailed me a few days ago with this and had made a couple of adjustments and had met with the chief and has his support. So yeah, it kind of came about by all that. I think we have this agreement with most other municipalities in the region, but we've never had it with really one of the largest municipalities when it comes down to it
Yeah,
No, it's actually good.
for some time.
Good to see that.
it's a good job.
Okay, excellent, council. We've got some correspondence we need to look at, and Jeff, on the other items on the agenda, have you got enough information to go
Let
forward?
me look here quick, investment. Yeah, I think we're okay. Yeah, I think we're fine.
You're good?
Yep.
Okay, let's move into correspondence. Let's do the WCB claim. There's a reduction in our WCB.
Yeah, this was just kind of an FYI.
What we did last year when there was a reduction in the WCB, we did a breakfast or something?
It was a little different. That was for,
Safety.
that was our partners in
Safety
injury
reduction.
reduction. Yeah,
Okay.
little different money.
Because that's quite a significant decrease, which is nice.
Yeah, what happens there is we had a lost time accident, would have been 5 years ago, and those stay on your premium. They're calculated in your premium for the next 4 years.
4 years.
And so that accident came off at the end of 2014.
Okay, I get
So
you.
We haven't had any significant missed time incidents since then. So it's been 4 years without any significant incidents. So yeah, from $1.03 per hundred to 72 cents per hundred.
It's quite significant. It's a
decent-
quarter,
yeah,
25%
decent
down.
reduction. I was happy with that.
Yeah, it's quite significant.
So is that as kind of low as it'll go until, as long as we don't have incidents?
I don't know that for sure. Ours isn't as low, well, for our industry, it probably is getting pretty close. So every industry has a different risk rating.
Yep.
And because we have utility guys and electrical guys and that, we're not the lowest risk for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move on. We have an invite from Southwest Regional Alliance to their annual general meeting, I believe. Yeah, dinner and annual general meeting, and it's held at the Castle Mountain Resort on May 15th. Is there anybody here that would like to attend that?
I'm sure
On June
Councillor
3rd,
Peavoy.
on June 3rd, rather.
Wednesday, June 3rd.
Yeah, this is the one meeting a year for this group that all participating council
Yeah.
members are invited, so.
Yeah, except that we all have to have a per diem.
Oh, no, I'm just, that's why the invitation.
And traveling.
That's why.
But I think you are the assigned councillor to that, and I think you could represent us quite well.
Okay?
I had my 30th high school anniversary reading that.
30. Oh, 30. Man, still
I know, it's kind of scary, actually.
It's very interesting. When they had it in Waterton, I went a couple years. They do a very good job at their presentation, and the meal is always a very wonderful meal. But the presentation are quite interesting.
Okay, moving on forward, we have two documents, correspondence from John McGowan.
Three.
Three, AUMA, one is 9 pages long, and the other is 100 and somewhat pages.
But it's quite interesting. The short document, which is 9 pages, is a very interesting document
On
because
annexation?
it's a recommendation. For example, remember the whole shared service reviews that we done because of Glenwood and Hillspring, who had difficulty doing what I would have loved to do, which was to be able to amalgamate. There is a recommendation there that there would be to enable voluntary amalgamation where the boundaries of affected municipalities are not contiguous. So that's a recommendation that is coming through, which I found very interesting, and I thought good for them to do that. And there are some good recommendations inside there. If you didn't have a chance to read it, I would say read it, because it would really affect how we do business in the future, even with the county, or if we needed a piece of land or something like that. It's quite interesting and well thought of. And the large document, in fact, is all the research that's done in order to come up to those resolutions. So
Any other
I found it
comments?
interesting.
I just want to see the opposite version of this at AAIDMC there.
Yeah,
You know, what does theirs look like?
because I think if we pose this annex right now,
Well,
there'd be quite a,
to tell you the truth, if you read the document, you will see that I have worked with them too.
There's another bit of a driving piece behind this, if I might, that you'll just find interesting. We're in no position to propose any kind of annexation. I'm not suggesting we do. But what they were having is they were having small urbans like us just go to the counties and say,
Yeah.
you give us this amount of money, or we're
Dissolution.
dissolving.
Yeah.
So they were putting their guns to the head of the county councils and saying, hey, if you don't start coming up with $1 million a year, we're dissolving, and then you can pay for all the recreation services. And so they're actually, and I've heard this even from AUMA's perspective, just trying to put something in there to make sure that it wasn't just being used as a bargaining chip,
Yeah.
that there had to be sufficient due diligence prior to actually saying you were going to do that.
And that's,
So,
yeah, you're exactly correct. In that document that showed that you should have a list of
Yeah.
points that need to be taken care of before the submission could even
Yeah.
hit the minister's desk, which I think is wise.
yeah.
okay, council, basically that sums up, there's no confidential items. Just a minute, Councillor Barfuss.
No hand just goes up.
Is there anything on the agenda that we have covered that you would like to have more discussion on? Any part of it? Yes.
The only thing I had mentioned to Jeff, but for all of you to hear, there is an item in a budget that talks about Alberta Southwest and Alberta South Grove. And I said the amount that is expensed there for all costs is maybe not exactly representative of the true cost. And Jeff said, yeah, it's an interesting point, because when it went over the $500 that is budgeted, that took it out of the travel big account that we have for ourselves when we go to conferences. So I thought it would be best if it was truly represented
Yeah, we'll tweak
properly.
that.
So that was one item that I had noticed.
Jeff, is there anything on the financial that you'd like to return from the council?
No, if you can keep all that, it's fine. If you want to look it over between now and next week, because we're going to go, we'll proceed with the bylaw as per option 1, so we didn't change the option for mill rate. So by all means, if there's questions between now and then, we can talk about it next week.
Well, I thank council for the way that you've indulged everything. I thank administration. Jill, thank you, and to Corey and Kim, thank you for covering this council meeting. We're ahead of schedule by 13 minutes. Councillor Barfuss, go for it.
Move to adjourn.
Just because we can go till 7 doesn't mean we don't have to.
That's right. We're not early.
Starting to sound like a church meeting.
We're not obligated then.
Just because